What if you could turn 15 years of corporate experience and a lifelong love of the outdoors into a business that changes the way people experience the wilderness? Our guest today did exactly that. Scott Jensen is the founder of Near Zero, a brand built to make backpacking accessible to everyone. A former supply chain director for companies like Honeywell and Tyco, Scott left the corporate world, bet everything on his dream, and created the patented Dean backpack system. I think of it like a first aid kit, but for a full backpack kit. A complete, ready-to-go kit that gets anyone trail ready in 30 minutes and able to stay overnight. Near Zero is already stocked at Scheels, Costco, Walmart, and Amazon, and Scott is just getting started. You may even want to be an investor in this one. He's launching a new campaign to raise funding right now. You're for sure going to want to be a customer when you see how awesome this product is if you're into anything outdoors. Scott Jensen, welcome to the show.
Startups with Stu is a podcast for anyone living or wanting to live the startup life, either as a founder or a team member. Your host, Stuart Draper, was a 9-time Inc. 5000 honoree before age 40. This show dives deep into the exhilarating world of entrepreneurship with guests that are seeking advice from Stu for their startup or business owners that want to share their entrepreneurial journey. Listeners always walk away with actionable ideas of what to do to take their startup to the moon. Startup life can feel like a roller coaster ride, and with Startups with Stu, you're likely to turn your roller coaster ride into a rocket ship ride. Get ready to uncover the secrets to startup success from visionary founders and savvy investors who've transformed groundbreaking ideas into thriving ventures.
On this episode of Startups with Stu today, we have Mr. Scott Jensen, the founder of Near Zero. Scott, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Stu.
So Scott, on this show that you have never had a chance to listen to yet, we talk about what it takes to take your startup to the moon. And what I found is that founders have a different vision of what the moon is for them. And that's okay, right? Not everyone has to be aimed at the billion-dollar business. That's not right for everyone. And whatever it is, whether you want to have a business that just allows you to have a good lifestyle, or if you want to have a business that makes it so you're just your own boss and you just could never work for the man and you don't care if it makes you wealthy, you just don't want to work for the man. That's okay. That may be your moon landing. For you, what will it mean when you take Near Zero to the moon?
That's a good question. What does it mean when I take Near Zero to the moon? It is ultimately following my passion, which is entrepreneurship, coupled with my most deepest favorite thing to do on my spare time, and that's go backpacking. So if I can couple those things together and actually start paying myself, actually making a profit, and still enjoy my passion and give me time to actually do what my business is, to get out and do more backpacking, that takes me to the moon. So we'll talk a little bit more about that journey, the last years and where things are at today, but we still got a long way to go.
Absolutely. So Scott, you are someone that is living a lot of people's described dreams, working on something they're passionate about that they love, and finding a way for that thing to pay for their life and do the things they want to do in life. But you're doing the hard part that keeps most people from getting there. And you said that you described it as getting to the place where it does make it so you can pay like yourself. That's like the biggest hurdle, I think, for most any aspiring founders. Like, how can I go without a salary? How do I survive? So what have you done in life? What choices did you make that have got you to a place where you can go without for a little while you build the business into something that can pay you a salary?
Yeah, so I spent 15 years in corporate supply chain. I did international business for Honeywell for 4 years, Tyco Electronics for 6 years, and Carlisle for 3 years. These are all multi-billion-dollar companies. And I was a director in my last position, living in China as an expat with a fantastic salary and huge benefits and great 401k. And so I was able to build up a nest some savings there. And basically, I am now almost depleted all of that, to be completely transparent, including the 401k. My wife's terrified right now as we put everything, including HELOC loans, everything into this business these last 6 years since I quit my day job.
Gosh, man, I almost get emotional. Actually, I do get emotional hearing you describe that. This is one of those like gut-wrenching, deep soul-searching, am I doing what I'm supposed to be doing kind of times. And when your spouse starts to go, hey, are we doing what we're supposed to be doing here? But she's still supporting you, it sounds like, which is awesome. That's like a trying time. And I think it's you are at a stage where this will define you and your success. And I mentioned to you before we started this episode, 2 episodes that really inspired me a lot in the e-commerce game, both Shopify business owners. One is Portland Leather Goods, and the other is Murphy Door. Curtis Matsko and Jeremy Barker. Go find those episodes if you're into the e-commerce game. You want to learn about those founders. But in both of their cases, they had times in their life where everything was extremely against them in life. It was so hard. They were so close to not making it. And
Stu,
I think if you go back through most entrepreneurs' journeys that are ultra successful, they had ultra difficulty. Okay. And so good for you to take this leap of faith and go for it. And getting to this place has you in a position of like, do or die on this hill. I'm finding a way. Right. And so tell us about what you're doing. How are you've depleted now. You've worked hard. You've got a really cool looking product, by the way. Actually, before we talk about what you did to get to, or what you're doing now to find a way to get through, let's talk about the product first. I want everyone to know about Near Zero and what you've built, because in the background, for those not watching the show today, you can see he's got different backpacks, different backpacking gear, and his really cool looking brand Near Zero on the wall. So tell us about Near Zero, and then what you're doing. We'll jump into like what you're doing to cash flow into the future.
Sure. So the name Near Zero means near zero weight, near zero effort to get in the outdoors. We demystify backpacking. So in order to do that, we have over 100 different SKUs, the most critical type of products you need in order to go backpacking. Things from titanium cookware to a tent, to your sleep system, to your stove, and then ultimately what we now have is the best backpack on the market that's the most versatile, and it's named after my dad, called the Dean. This Dean backpack is on its 4th generation. It opens up, it's a clamshell. It opens up like a suitcase. It's organized, it's labeled, it tells you where to put your tent and your sleeping bag and your cook system and all of your toiletry items. It's labeled for it. And so it's a patented technology. We got our patented last year, and we've spent years and years prototyping to get to this point, tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars to get to the backpacks so that we can bundle it in a ready-to-go solution. So basically now you can go backpacking from a box. So that box is a patented technology, a patented system. So now you can get 25 items in it, and it's delivered to your door. And now basically in 30 minutes, you're prepared to go backpacking. So it completely takes all that guesswork out. And what enables that to do that is the Dean backpacking system, or our backpack.
That is genius. And it feels like social media will be such a powerful avenue, because as people like dream of going backpacking, something that really holds a lot of people back from actually pulling the trigger and doing it is, man, I got to go buy so many different things, and I don't even know what to get for my sleeping bag or what's going to be the best tent. And if you guys have solved that problem, the way I described, I heard about your brand and your product, and I described it by saying it's kind of like he created the first aid kit, but for backpacking. Everything you need to backpack in one kit, versus you having to go to Cabela's and spend all day going and shopping which sleeping pad, then which backpack, then which sleeping bag, then which cooking gear, then which cooking stove, and if you have to figure all that out and then you go, oh, wait, I got the wrong bag now because it doesn't all fit. Like, this is a process that's so time consuming, difficult, expensive, that if you got everything put into one planned platform, one small package deal with everything in it, that solves a lot of the hangups for a lot of people saying, I'm not going to do it. So huge market opportunity there, I would guess.
For sure. And I love that analogy with the first aid kit, because when you need it most, when you're out there, you want to make sure that you have what you need and it's going to be quality to heal you, right? Or to, fix that wound. The same is with backpacking. You don't want to be 20 miles away from any help and your sleep system goes out, or your tent fails, or your stove doesn't start. So can you really trust one brand? You can't just get Temu cheap crap online, and expect that it's going to perform well and it's going to be light enough that you can take it 20 miles backpacking. So to get to where we are today, to have a dialed in sleep system, a dialed in tent, a backpack that's truly going to perform, it is high quality gear at a very reasonable price and very lightweight. So it's incredible. But it's not just the bundle. You can buy all this stuff individually as well, which we've had to do for years before actually offering it as a bundled system.
My guess, Scott, is that your business has some strong seasonality to it, numbers that are very driven by the, pre-Memorial Day and then probably the holidays. Tell me about how you've cash flowed so far, and what you've learned about those numbers and that timing.
Yeah, no, most people do see it as very seasonal, and true. There is a big seasonality to it. There's a few months out of the year that are really slow, but for the most part, we're all year round. The reason why is because, yes, the peak seasons are the summer, after school, Memorial Day, I'm going to get ready for my backpacking trip. But most people that go backpacking, they prepare 3 to 4 months in advance before their trip. Okay. They're going to go to Europe. They're going to go, far away. So they're making sure that they test that backpack. They test their tent weeks, if not months in advance. So we sell a lot through January, February, March timeframe. And then you get into like the hunting season. We sell a lot of these kits to hunters, and that's going to be September, October. Okay. And then you get into the holiday seasons. This backpacking kit is the best, it's the best Christmas gift. So we're selling a lot in November and December as well.
Okay. That's nice to know that you can cash flow well throughout the whole year with different seasonality, different promotions for different seasons. You're gonna need that as you grow, right? And so as far as the cash flows go right now, you've been depleting. You're burning cash. You've got a runway. You know how long you can last into the future. What are you doing right now to extend your runway besides aimed at trying to get more sales, obviously?
Yeah. So as a startup, it's really difficult in the retail business to balance between D2C and B2B, direct to consumer versus business to business, right? And so that D2C, we have to hold the inventory ourselves. We're only getting in cash per individual sale each day, right? Where we need to get a better cash flow into here is that B2B. Sure, they're going to be on terms, net 60, even net 90-day terms. But once we get to that point where we're getting purchase orders, a $50,000 order or a $100,000 order, we can now get the financing tied to that PO in order to buy the materials needed, which in our retail space, generally that's around, 25%. So if we're going to sell an item for $200, it might cost us $30 to $50 for that. So I don't have to put up a ton of money to buy that product inventory if I have a purchase order that's going to fulfill that afterwards. So right now is more of these retailers are wanting to be online. Like we sell into Scheels, we sell into Walmart, Amazon, Macy's, Boy Scouts of America, and now we even sell in Costco. So, but all of these retailers like a Scheels and a Costco, they want to go online first. And so this is a big difficulty of cash flow, is we're having to hold that inventory ourselves to do a drop ship type of a program straight to the end customer.
Wow. So are you raising money currently?
We just started. Yeah, we've raised about $100,000 already through a safe, simple agreement for future equity. And we just opened up a WeFunder. It's not yet registered publicly, so it's friends and family right now at a discounted rate. So we're just starting. I'm just finishing the finalization of the SEC audits and the tax stuff and all of the financials that we need to put in there in order to making sure that we're sound to do this publicly.
Fantastic. So
bootstrap the whole way. I've been bootstrapping it ever since. I'm 100% owner in the company. And yeah, like I said, it's just pulling anything I can and everything I can from own personal savings and trying to build enough revenue to buy that next purchase order of materials and products. So it's being extremely frugal.
you have burnt the ships, man. You quit the day job. You took all of your life savings, got the home equity line of credit, and you are just putting everything into bootstrapping it and keeping as much ownership as you can, which I think is wise for a lot of founders while you get it going. And that's what you have to do. You have to get creative to get yourself as far as you can as a founder on your own dime. And then make sure that you leave yourself enough runway for the time it takes to get the next round of funding in. And so hopefully by the time this episode goes live, folks, you can go to WeFunder, search up near zero, and go find a way for you to go and invest in the product. Is this similar to Kickstarter where you're able to like buy the bag as a part of your investment? Or is this different than that?
It's different than that. So WeFunder is not like a Kickstarter in the sense that you're actually physically getting a product. Now there are perks, right? So if you invest a certain amount of dollars, you get a free gift tied to, your investment. But Kickstarter or WeFunder really is, you're buying future. We can do different types of investment opportunities, whether that is a convertible note, things like that. We're launching this WeFunder under a SAFE, which is a simple agreement for future equity. So what you're getting if you invest, say, $10,000, you are having the opportunity to buy shares of the company at a discounted rate at a certain cap evaluation of our business. So you will now own future shares of near zero if you choose to convert that at that convertible period.
So, but you do write the check, you do wire the money at the time that you buy that you go and put the money into the WeFunder account or web page, correct, Scott?
Correct. Yeah. So WeFunder collects all that money. They take a percentage of that funds in order to manage it all under one cap table. So we have chosen to do a minimum investment through WeFunder of $1,000. Sorry, no, I take that back. $100. So you can go in and WeFunder / near zero and invest $100 and have future ownership in near zero. Why do we do that? One, we don't have to manage you individually on the cap table at $100. If you wanted to do outside of WeFunder, we have a minimum investment of $25,000. Okay, so in WeFunder, it's great because they will manage that all one cap table, and then we want to market our company so that all these people now have future ownership in near zero at a discounted rate. And we want you to try the gear and test it and hopefully buy the gear or already have used the gear and you just believe in what we're doing.
Do you have an obligation as a founder to send an update through WeFunder to the investors they brought to the table?
Yeah, that's a great question. I don't know if it's an obligation, if there's a requirement, but they do have a communication channel, ways that we can give, continual updates about the company. Based upon the investment that you do, like I said, there are certain perks. And so with those perks, we have a scaled perk system that says if you invest a certain amount of dollars, you can come to Arizona and we will go on a backpacking trip with you and learn more about the company. There's increased visibility into the company, personal tours of the company, but everyone that invests in the company will get a regular updated, status as far as our financials and things like that as an investor of the business.
I love that, by the way, because I think there's a lot of people in corporate at the stage of life, Scott, that you're in, and they haven't become their own founder. They may not even desire that, but they do like the idea of being an investor in startups. And they can be a small angel that comes in, but gets to feel connected to the business as if they are an early stage investor, like they really are. And, but if they're deeply passionate about backpacking, then rather than buy a duplex that is just going to pay them a monthly amount and they have to hire a property management company, all of a sudden they're like, no, I invested in a backpacking business because I love backpacking. And I'm like, they become like mega ambassadors for Near Zero. That's pretty cool.
And truly, that's the people we want. I stated in my 2-minute video that's on WeFunder Live today, and that is, we want people that have a passion for the outdoors to join this movement, right? It literally is a movement to making the outdoors more accessible to all in a way that allows people to feel safer in the outdoors. We call this the 72-hour kit that you hope you get to use, not the one you hope you never have to use. So if you have a passion for making sure that people are using their 72-hour kits in the outdoors and have tested it out and tried it, not just hoping for doomsday to happen, but you want to know what it's like to sleep in a tent and eat in the outdoors and filter water from a stream, a lot of people have never done this. And if you have done it, you're like, I want to pass that on to the next generation because my kids have never done something like that before, or they've only car camped before. They don't know what it's like to sleep 20 miles away from anyone else or other civilization, isolated under the stars, and hear the wild animals around them, and actually have to build the courage of sleeping through an entire night away from everyone and get back home and know that I am surviving off of what I have on my back.
Oh yeah, I did that as a kid. I do it as an adult with my own kids. Like you had your dad, Dean, I had my dad, Larry, that exposed me to backpacking and taught me how to have the grit to get through a night camping, knowing there's bears out there in the woods. And what a cool part of life that definitely shaped me more than I probably give it credit for. Now as an adult that doesn't go camping as frequently as I did as a kid. But I wanted to point out something that a lot of founders will hear this, like, do what you love, do something you're passionate about. No matter what your like hobbies and passions are that way, if you don't have a passion for business and for winning at entrepreneurship, you're going to find it a struggle, even if you love the hobby, because Scott is so busy working on his business that getting to get out and use his product is probably harder than it was when he was in corporate right now. And you have to find passion in winning at business as well. And I think that for a lot of founders, they can find joy in what they're building, selling whatever product or service, if they enjoy winning at business and finding ways to win at business. So, and sometimes winning at business in an earlier business allows you to afford the time, money, and energy to do something that incorporates more your hobby and passion in a later business. That's my case today, by the way. So I had getfoundfirst.com, a Google Ads business. I loved helping people. I loved winning at getting deals online. That was fun for me, but like deeper passion than digital marketing was helping people and winning at business for sure. And then my second business was Stu Kent, an education technology business. And I loved helping on educators, and I had been an educator, but again, more than anything, I loved that I kept helping people and they were willing to pay me for that help. In turn, that business was successful. And now I'm working on a fun business, National Parks Baseball Resort. And I have a deep passion for baseball. I'm wearing my Barn Bombers 13U baseball teams hat today. I love all things baseball. And so it's fun to get to work on something now that's incorporating more of that. But don't always, I just want to warn people that you don't have to have something that's like, oh, I like playing the guitar, therefore the only business for me would be a guitar music business, as an example. So find the passion in winning at business, and then you'll be able to withstand the storms when it's really hard, even if it's something you're passionate about, because you may not get to do the passion as much while you work so hard to get the business off the ground. Okay, off my soapbox and taking away some of the stage time that you get here, Scott. As far as the near zero product development process went, I think people are going to be fascinated by this because a lot of people are like, well, I'm going to get into corporate. This was me, by the way, when I was a kid. My thought process, even when I say a kid, I mean like in college, I was like, I'm going to work a corporate job because I don't know what business I would start. I'm going to learn this. I'm going to learn from others, and then I'll try to live right, work hard. And if the right opportunity approaches me, like I'll have the courage to jump and go start whatever business. And it sounds like that's been your exact path, but like, how did you identify the addressable market opportunity? And then how did you have the like ability to go build the product that addressable market needed in your case?
Sure. Let me actually back up a little bit and I'll answer that question. But my path wasn't that I knew, the corporate job and that I knew that I was going to do this business. I never imagined ever working for corporate. Okay. So I always was an entrepreneur by spirit. I didn't get my first paycheck didn't happen until after I was married and I was 23 years old or 24 years old. I was told you're now on payroll. What does payroll mean? I had no idea what, all of these things were. What does it mean to be an hourly wage person? So just as a background, when I was 8 and 9 years old, I started my own snow cone business. And this was not just a weekend snow cone business. This was a legit huge stand that I would wheel out onto the street, making sometimes about $20 an hour as a 9-year-old and 10-year-old with a hand crank snow cone machine that I inherited, that I had to save up then $500 of my own money to buy an electric one to upgrade the system, and then having all of the flavors out. And, I had like 15 different flavors, and I went into the shaved ice business, setting it up at certain events and things as a 9, 10 up to about 13 years old. Then after that, when I was a young teenager at age 15, I was in a geometry class and someone was making a balloon animal in class. And I said, that looks very intriguing. Teach me how to make balloons. Because he's telling me he's making like $30 an hour on weekends. So I became a balloon artist working at restaurants all over the Phoenix Valley, making, on the weekends and during the week, like $50 to $100 an hour off of tips. And then I started a palm tree trimming business, and I have trimmed hundreds, if not thousands, of palm trees, climbing up trees and, starting that business. And then I went to other business. I did a vending machine business, and I did wedding videos. Making 5 years of my life when I was first married was just making wedding videos all over the nation. And I'd edit them, and that was my life, was being a small entrepreneur, all these small little jobs. And then we started having kids. We bought our first house. We felt the weight. My wife needed security. And that's when it was said. And by the way, I also got an undergraduate degree from Arizona State in business. So it was like, I needed to use that. I had an associate's degree in business. And so then I decided to get my first real corporate job after graduating from ASU. And I then got stuck. I got stuck for 15 years with that fixed salary, nearly hating my job every day, every Monday, in tears because of the red tape. Even though I'm getting promoted and, making more money and all these things, Honeywell sponsored me through Thunderbird. They paid for my education at the #1 international business school in the world. and I did that 10 years after graduating from ASU. I always had this passion for international business. I'm fluent in Mandarin Chinese. So I go to China and audit factories, and I became this love for international business. But after 15 years and living in China with my family and 5 kids as an expat, COVID hit. We had to evacuate China, and I needed something different. I needed to get out of the corporate shell and corporate handcuffs. And in 2021, that was the hardest decision I ever made, was starting a new business that, yes, I did have a passion for, absolutely had a passion for, but I've never been in the retail business. I know nothing about the retail business. International business, I know how to source product in China. I know how to do that. But
so that's how you came up with that's how you were able to build the near zero product.
So that's the back end story of now where near zero is today. But it didn't start a traditional path.
Yeah, definitely not a traditional path to it. And I think though, like the blessing of you, like, yes, deep in my heart and soul, I'm an entrepreneur, but I need for myself, for my family, the right thing to do right now is not be an entrepreneur and go put yourself through that hard. That developed you. It learned you. It learned you. Geez, it taught you so many things that prepared you for this next step that you're in. And while you said that you haven't learned or don't know retail, like, bro, if you found a way to get your own products in Scheels, Costco, like, you're doing some things right and you found some ways to win. Looks like there's still a lot more to go, still figure out, but you're doing it. And let's get into the product development more detailed. Like, did you just use your Chinese and go drop in on some like warehouses and say, hey, this is my dream. This is what I want to build. Can you help me? How did that part
work? So corporate taught me that. Because my job was, I had a team of 11 engineers. I was a project manager, and I interacted with the Chinese factories in order to have the engineers interact with them to make new product development. I was over what they call VAVE, value add value engineering. We had to redesign medical and aerospace products to making sure that they were redesigned in a way that qualified the FDA requirements, and ISO 13485 or FDA requirements. And so that product development period of time sometimes took years in order to qualify that, and making sure that the right milestones were done. And so I was that liaison between the engineer and the factories in China. And so then I just incorporated that same, a much simpler approach when you're using backpacking gear, but now finding a factory in China that can make quality products and then go through that iteration cycle. Building tech packs. I've built many tech packs. Our backpack has 80 pages in the tech pack, in order to go through making sure that they can follow, the design of an 80-page document that tells them all the materials they need to do. And it has to be in centimeters and millimeters versus inches, and translating that in a way that's manufacturable, that can now make a prototype and then go through the iterations after you do prototypes. The first Dean backpack went through 11 prototypes before we released the first product. And that's iterating from, like I said, an 80-page tech pack. It is so complicated of a product that, it took 3 years of development. Just getting that next one, hiking the Grand Canyon with it, and being like, nope, it's not right. We got to tweak this. We got to adjust that before it ever went into production. And we sold 1 unit. It took a long, long time.
That's a beauty of creating a business for a product that you want for yourself, built for us, by us kind of thing. You got to test it and try it and decide like, it's not there yet, versus having to sell it to customers and have them tell you, hey, your product's not there yet and I want my money back. Right. But that what you've done, Scott, through this process that I hope other founders are paying attention to, is you have created barriers to entry. Right. So spending learning Chinese, going through the process of learning how to work with the manufacturers, being able to build a product that has everything put together in one pack, then testing it and going back to and getting through to all the iterations. Every time you do more and more of that, as hard as that is, as long as it takes, as costly as it is, what it's really doing for you compared to the others is it's creating some real barriers to entry. And even the large brands will look at what you're doing and go, oh, neat. We're not doing that. We don't want to go through all of the time, money, investment in figuring that out. Eventually, they may be a strategic buyer for you and go, oh, he's proven that there's a big market for the one-stop shop purchase, the full package kit. Everyone does want that. We're going to buy near zero and sell the Dean, right? But there are barriers to entry, and a lot of entrepreneurs look for a first business that does not have so many. And for a lot, that's wise. Service-based business, guys, go start a lawn mowing company. Like 14-year-olds do it. So if you're really aspiring to be an entrepreneur and you're 25 and you just know you can't work for the man, go start a lawn mowing business. All you got to do is buy a mower, right? Like go knock some doors and buy a mower. But just know you'll always be able to get a piece of the market because 1,000 other people can go and do the same thing as you.
Mm-hmm.
Not 1,000 other people on planet Earth can do what Scott's been able to accomplish. And so as an investable business, one of the things you want to look for is, can this just be easily duplicated? And I think what I'm hearing today, what I'm observing is you cannot easily duplicate this.
Yeah, you're exactly right. You can duplicate individual items. You can duplicate our tent. You can duplicate a sleeping bag. The backpack, no, it's very, very difficult to duplicate. You could copy it. We do own one patent and a second patent pending right now on it. So good luck and we will go after you. But the whole backpacking system itself is extremely complex because of the supply chain elements of it. And then trying to do all of these components to fit into something, that's taken years of development and making sure that you have all of these things that can then fit in an affordable way that's not going to cost you $2,000 to put together this system that is a hodgepodge of brands or one brand even trying to come putting it together. It's extremely complex in order to put that together. And then, like I said, the supply chain element of it and making sure that you're sourcing all of these items and putting it together in a whole bundled solution.
I think that this has been one of the most educational episodes we've ever had on the show, because we're talking so much through all of the process of getting to where you are today, Scott. And so I hope I can point something out here that will be educational for everyone. And that is that all of these stars and planets, Scott has been working to align from well over a decade before he started the business. There were choices he was making in his life, career opportunities he was given in his life that prepared him, including learning Chinese, that prepared him to be able to do what he's doing today. And then throughout the course of building the product, he's continued to bring in together more stars, more planets. They're all aligning. And now he's in a cash crunch. And no matter how many choices he's made right, if he can't figure out the cash flow next, he'll die as a business. And so Scott is a wise man. He's gone to work to get the WeFunder stuff done, and he's going to find a way. I know deep in my soul, listening to you today, Scott, that you're going to figure it out. You'll find a way. And keep your spouse, give her all of the reassurance you can. We're doing this. It's going to work. It's going to work. It's going to work. And let her keep trusting you and believing in you and cheering for you, because if you don't get the cash flows right, your loved ones eventually go, hey, I know this is your dream, but we got to pay the bills, and they matter more. At the end of the day, your family will matter, and your loved ones and your relationships with them will matter way more than if you made millions with your business, right? And so, but as long as you can keep them on board with, this is the dream, this is the vision, it's going to happen. And then you prove to yourself that you can make by the way, I said stars and planets. When the cash works in the business. So that's getting the sun in the center of it all. Okay. And you need that sunlight for life. Your cash, I always have talked about it like blood, but I love the idea, the sun example. You have, especially if there's a day and a night in your cash analogy, there's going to be times when night comes and the sun's not there, and you have to be able to make it through to the next day. And like, as a business owner, always keeping cash top of mind is so critical. By the way, I'm not a finance mind. Luckily, I'm enough of a sales and a marketing mind that I've found ways to make sure cash always takes care of itself by being really good at the marketing and sales. And I've always brought really wise, smart brains around me to take care of managing the day-to-day and the Excel spreadsheets and the projections and the 13-week calendars and the runway reports. They've helped me with that part so that I could always be aware of it and look at it, but not have to manage the details of how to get it. And so, like, Scott, if there's one like real like cheerleading moment for you on this episode, just keep going and figure this part out, because once you do, the opportunities that will come in Scheels and Costco will all get greater, and the revenues and from your direct to consumer website, all those things will start taking care of themselves more, and you'll be able to invest more in even better product and additional products that can grow revenues. Don't keep investing probably in more product right now, other than just things that make it sell, right? And then get back to improving. You probably, by the way, have a natural inclination to want to keep improving, because you've got the supply chain stuff background. You have a background in product development and improvements. So it's going to be natural to want to do that, but go focus on the sales and marketing, right? So then the cash will allow you to do more of that development that you want to do over time.
For sure. That's great advice. Thank you, Stu.
You mentioned before the episode that you served a mission in Taiwan. I'd love to hear how you feel like that helped you with your entrepreneurial journey. And and then I'd love to be here to answer any questions you have of me. So let's tackle that, and we'll wrap up this awesome episode with Scott Jensen, founder of Near Zero.
Sure. Yeah. So, as I told you, my childhood was small businesses, right? This little entrepreneur spirit. I always knew I was going to be an entrepreneur. And I lived, when I was a young kid, I lived in Mexico. So I was fluent in Mandarin Chinese from grade school. And
Wait, but you learned?
Sorry. I meant Spanish. So I lived in Mexico as a kid, and I learned Spanish. So I was fluent in Spanish through grade school.
Yeah.
I lived I went to Spanish speaking schools, and every day was in Spanish for me. And so I always thought that when I was time to serve a mission, I would go Spanish speaking. Well, my call came, and it was Mandarin Chinese, and I was devastated. Learning Chinese was extremely difficult for me. Extremely difficult. Well, I came home from Taiwan after 2 years and came in love with the language and Chinese culture of business mindset. The Chinese people are the best of the world as far as business people, in my opinion. And so when I came home, I thought, that's what I want to do as a career. I want to continue this Mandarin Chinese, run my own sourcing business, source products in China. I had a friend that did that, and I went to him. He was the middleman. He was an import-export company, sourcing products from China. I went to him and said, hire me for free. I said, I will work for you for free. Let me work for you. He said, you know what? The best advice I can give you right now, he's like a father figure to me, okay? He said, is go work for corporate. Go work for a big company, Coca-Cola, anyone you need to. Learn from them how to do business overseas, and then come talk to me. So that was my first path in using Chinese. Is then I spent the corporate ladder working for large corporations for 15 years, coming in love with the Chinese people and my language, that that is ultimately what started that, using the Chinese language. I continue to use my Spanish, and I worked in Mexico as well through the corporate years, but Chinese is really what launchpad my career. And then ultimately living in China, working at a factory of 3,000 employees for 2 years with my 5 kids, all in, local international schools, living in China before COVID hit. That was from 2018 to 2020, where I got to use my Chinese every day and audit factories. And now it's like, I could never go back. I've thought of other careers, but I'm like, no, I love Chinese. I get to use it every day for near zero, interacting with factories and go to China regularly, that it's just become in my blood. And coupled business now with Chinese, I love it. I absolutely love it.
Yeah. That familial experience of mom and dad saying, yep, we're going to move our kids to Mexico. What that turned into a great blessing for your life. And what's cool to me is seeing that, like, just like your dad passed on the backpacking love, he also passed on the expat life, like that you ended up doing the same thing with your kids in China. It's neat to see how that has ended up working out similar for you and your family. That's how I think. So we are very much shaped by our parents and family. And I've found a commonality in entrepreneurs that they usually had a pretty solid support system in their younger years that helped them be able to have the mental fortitude to be and the grit to be a founder. So what questions do you have for me, Scott, after this time we've spent together, if any?
You've answered a lot of it. I love the insights that you had as far as how you started your business and the advice that you gave. Yeah, that's all wonderful. I think the last thing is, what would you recommend after hearing my story that you would recommend for next steps in order to survive this storm? Like, you want it to survive. I know it will survive, but it's like, rolling around in broken glass every day. It's just like, but I can get out of here and just give me a little bit longer. And it will work, but it's like, how much longer do you continue to do this path before bringing in investors, before bringing in other people, losing some of that control, things like that? Where would you, so short answer is, what do you recommend we do next?
Yeah, this is a good question. And I do have some immediate thoughts. I'd love to help more later if you want to talk more about it later. But first and foremost, Josh James shared, he's the founder of Omniture. They sold to Adobe. Then he built another company called Domo. And Josh James is known for saying, if you're ever unsure where to focus in your business, focus on sales. It has all the answers. Sales solves everything. It's the cure-all in a business. If you can get sales, even if the product isn't perfect, what it does is it gives you the revenue that you need to invest in fixing the product issues, right? If products are not selling, then the sales team can tell you, hey, customers aren't buying because XYZ. So always go focus on sales. You're going to work on investor money. Investor money comes easier when you have sales too. And you're going to need investors because sales aren't where they need to be yet. Because if sales are where they needed to be, that would cash flow you'd be able to use the sales revenue versus investor revenue to grow to the next level. So continuing to focus on, okay, I'm in Scheels. Why isn't product moving more in Scheels? Is there something I could do with Scheels to help move more product in Scheels? So they want to make a bigger order next time. Is it, because it sounds like you don't have that hard of a time talking stores into putting you on their shelf. That's working out for you. So that it may be more of a timing issue that you have to solve for with your money, with the investor money, right? It's like bridge. Would you say that's the case?
Yeah, no, we're in a bridge situation. And that's the question, is sales at what cost? Because we are double the sales this year than we were last year. We're over doubling our sales.
Yeah.
But at what cost? Because you're at that bridge of now giving up 50% margin to a wholesaler that wants you to do drop ship. So you're going to have to carry a lot more capital in inventory in order to bridge that time period, like with the Costco.
Yeah.
Jumping in for ads, I can build tons of sales, but at what cost in PPC ads? So having that healthy balance as far as, I don't want to only focus on sales, because at what cost am I giving up that margin in order to bridge that gap?
So with everything on your plate, who's the one managing the finances and the spreadsheets to help you analyze that, to answer that question, at what cost? Because do you do that today by yourself? Is that you?
Yeah. So I'm in QuickBooks and used AI tools to do that. And we're doing better from a profit and loss perspective, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, look, you have to pick and choose. You're wearing all the hats as a founder and as a bootstrapped founder. And as you raise money, you got to ask yourself, like, okay, who are the team members that I need to bring on board that will help me grow 10 times where I am right now? Not just any team member, but the team member that can help me grow 10 times. Because then I worry less about how much that team member is going to cost and more about what value they're going to bring the business. Mm-hmm. And you may go, I'm going to own the finance and analysis type stuff. That's me. I love that. If that's you, great. But you do have to remember that even things that you love, sales and marketing, I hired for some of that pretty dang early in my business, because I knew that there were other parts of the business that would need so much of my attention that I took those off my own head faster and put those hats on someone else. But finances for me was one of those ones, like, I couldn't give it away fast enough. And I just found a good outsourced CFO at first was the right solution for me. And they turned out to be, now he's, by the way, the president of that company that's 13 years old now. Like, he's that outsourced CFO, invested in each round of the funding of the business, is the last investor in, because he got to see all the numbers and decided, this is definitely a good investment. And then became my full-time CFO. And then eventually now he's the president of the entire business. So, picking the right team members, besides focusing on the right sales and the right path for more revenue, I would say those two things for me are key areas of focus. And then if I gave you one other piece of advice, as you take investor money, treat it like very sacred funds and give detailed reports. You can choose to leave out some details, and they won't review probably most of them. But I found that for me as a founder, when I took money, treating those like sacred funds and giving at first a monthly report, then we switched to quarterly when it made more sense. I chose to always include some of the bad, so that if things didn't work out, they knew that I knew the bad and I was doing everything in my power to solve for it. But those reports, they will allow you to step out of the business and work on it. So sales, people, and investor money, and treating it with good reports and good love I think those are some key elements to your next stage of success, buddy.
Great. Thank you. Thank you for that advice.
Go near zero. Go buy it, you guys. If you're camping this summer, you need to go buy a near zero pack. If you have always thought about doing some angel investing, hey, go put $100 in near zero at least, if not a lot more. And Scott, thanks for coming on my show. I can't wait to watch you take near zero to the moon, baby. It's going to happen.
Thank you, Stu. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks for joining me on Startups with Stu. We have big goals to help millions of entrepreneurs. If you enjoyed this show, please take a minute to share it with someone else that needs to hear it, or leave a review. Remember, success is within reach for those who dare to dream big and take action. Until next time, keep pushing forward on your entrepreneurial journey.